We are at the bitter end of the Canadian financial earnings season, but I think the Canadian banks reported fantastic earnings. I don't want to go back and do over. No more. I'm happy to end it here. While TD isn't blowing it out of the water like some of the other banks maybe did, it's definitely not the bottom of the pack. TD reported an earnings per share today of $1.51 per share. That beat the street by 15 cents. And that's up over last year's quarter of $1.27 a share. Pretty good beat on both ends. Shows they're moving in the right direction. They're up 13% in profit from domestic, personal, and commercial banking. And they haven't been doing well in the year up until this point. So to see this turnaround, I know a lot of investors are probably pretty impressed with that. That's exactly what they're looking for. The stock's up 3% to close the day, 64.90. And that's the biggest one-day move for TD Bank in a year and a half. So despite the fact that we're at the end of the Canadian financial earnings season, and I bet there's a lot of people out there that are just taking this as everybody's doing well, right? You're going to get in something. That's the plan. If you're Canadian and you've got a diversified portfolio, you own one of these banks. It's almost by default you own one of these banks. Somebody's going to probably see this TD call and say, you know what? TD's doing obviously some stuff that we want to see this quarter. Biggest jump in a one-day market in a year and a half. That's, you know, I know people do erratic things occasionally. You definitely see stuff that happen that I wouldn't say intraday trade is bullocks. But in this instance, it just shows that everybody really liked what they saw. So the Canadian and US retail net income both grew 14%. So here in Canada, every kind of expansion, that's big. I mean, we see that. They're here already. They're on every street corner. So when we see them expand, we say, okay, you're already ingrained. We want to see a little bit more. Keep pushing, push whatever little margin you can cut into the other banks. We want to see that. And 14% growth, that's pretty significant. How much of that is just growth because new neighborhoods pop up and populations go up? And I'm sure it's just, there's a bit of that. I don't know how much they're actually encroaching on other banks' territory, but it's good to see in a place where they're well entrenched. But in the United States, 14% growth, that's real growth. You're going to go out there and actually find new customers. That's where you're getting it. You're going to go out and get new customers in countries where you're definitely not entrenched. You're the smaller guy on the block, but you've got a pretty big track record. You know, TD, people know who they are. So when you're down in the United States and you're doing fairly well for yourself and it's been in a track record of earnings calls for years and years and years, and you're growing at a 14% clip of net income, people see that. And that's where the growth is going to be. The growth is going to be in your international market where you haven't satiated every nook and cranny where you could set up a TD ATM. That's what you want from a company that you're going to invest in. And TD seems to be working in that direction. 14% growth in the United States. I like the international growth we've seen in BMO. Was it BMO? BMO's earnings call yesterday. They had a real pullback in their US, in their international market. It's the US market for BMO. It was a real pullback, and you know, this is the opposite, and this is what we like to see. I don't think this is necessarily the best Canadian financial earnings call that we got. I think we got that a couple of days back. I think I'll let you decide. Speak to your licensed professional financial advisor before you do anything. Do the due diligence, do the homework. Don't try this at home.